constantly winning is a feat, one must say. So it will be the Trundle band first against Duke, and the Vladimir taken out of the pool. Of course, that is one of Fly's best champions, and Faker not so hot on it this season.
Well, it's going to be Gangplank taken off the table as well. Both Duke and Someday going to be more than capable of piloting that champion in the top lane, so just going to be a blanket ban.
Well, it was Sumday's first GP game. Now, it was a very good GP game that he had against Samsung. After the laning phase, I see you Papa making faces over there. Wasn't great in the laning phase, but everything after that turned out pretty well.
And let's talk about the jungle pool, because Gragas has been the best performing jungler for both 10-1 for Blank, 8-1 for Score. Irrespective of some mechanics from Blank, they've been winning on that pick, and I'm intrigued to see if it will last to first pick, because you have to think KT will take it if it's up.
Yeah, almost certainly. And Blank, I mean, gets that pick, wins in the end, but the beginning of the game, all the way through the mid game, is just really rough times for him on that champion. So if Score can get his hands on it, you can be damn sure he's going to be pretty happy. Karma will be the final ban away by KT. So, bit of an interesting one to see that taken off the board. I mean, Faker does use it a lot in mid, but still a bit of an oddball.
Faker's only 4-3 on that champion, though, so that's what confuses me a little bit, is that it hasn't been SK Telecom's most successful mid lane pick. But probably going to be the Gragas, you got to take that one away. But the Aurelion Soul is still available, so an attack at Fly's champion pool, but not really too much that he can't go with right now, and he's comfortable in many, many matchups with Aurelion Soul.
The Karma ban did lead to the surrender of Gragas, so maybe it's just a strategy from KT to maybe try and deny something like a Juggernaut-esque comp to the side of SKT, and Karma a fairly stock standard pick for Faker, and they get the Gragas out of it. So at least in terms of junglers, they have one of the most potent. Now we're looking at what SKT want to draft, and this will be a high priority on Sivir. And if we do see Malzahar, a pick that was completely skipped out on KT's last series, that's actually SKT holding a lot higher priority on the Malzahar than KT have recently.
Yeah, they'll go ahead and they'll lock that one in. So just one of those other champions we didn't really think about that makes it through the draft. And Sivir will be picked up for Bang, so going to be perfectly comfortable with that champion in the bottom lane. The question is going to be, what do we see from Arrow? Will we see something like the Ashe, or will he go back to that Jhin that he had such a crushing performance against Samsung with just 2 days ago?
Oh, it's good. And also, when we talk about Arrow, we also always have to just keep Kog'Maw in the back of our mind, too. He's long been a player who focuses heavily on playing Kog'Maw, and one of his most comfortable champions in the scope of his career. But the Echo is not taken, so that's going to be a great pickup for Someday.
Someday, career undefeated on Echo, 8-0, the longest win streak out of an LCK player is that win streak from Someday on Echo. You're going to take the Braum early. Coming back to the 80 carry pick you were muting about, Achilles, I really like the Jhin here because Malzahar is a champion that's always fishing for picks in short to medium range. Get caught by one of those shots from the curtain call and potentially get picked. So I feel like Jhin can actually punish Malzahar, and he outranges him so far that he's never really in nether grass range himself.
Yeah, and having the Braum taken away as well, you're going to deny that potential unbreakable on the side of SKT should Wolf want to pilot it so he can't block those curtain call shots. So overall, could be a very strong pickup here for Arrow. We'll see what they want to do when we get back over to their side of the draft. For now, it's going to be a long hover over this Rex side potentially for Blank. We saw this in the first round. They're coming back to it now. Looks like this might be the pickup for SKT.
And we really haven't seen any of the surprising range support pickups that we may have expected, and Maokai actually locked in. Now that we've seen a couple Maokai games, but this is a surprise.
Now Duke, I remember him a year ago being known for his laning phase, not great at teleports, and played a lot of Maokai to get the teleport training wheels on because that's kind of the skill cap with this champion. What it does do is it's a bit of a blocker pick to Jhin in particular. Very good champion at flanking in front of a Jhin. Twisted Advance will of course interrupt the curtain call, and I think as a blocker pick to Jhin, and it's just a safe laner, it's not actually a bad idea by Duke.
Well, the hover over the Draven, you see sometimes from KT, don't think we're going to have that one locked in, but
I guess my concern here is that since we know we're getting standard lanes with Maokai's nerfs to his MR and going against an Echo, that might be a bit of an issue. We'll see if it ends up presenting. And let's see if the Jhin is going to be locked in anyway. As you say, with the Sivir and the Maokai, it is a risk.
I mean, coming back to something like a Kalista could work really well with the Sivir, but it's actually going to be Kog'Maw. So you mentioned that being a big comfort for him, but they're going to run this one despite not being able to run any sort of Juggernaut style composition.
I mean, he does have 4 tanky DPS characters in front of him, and of course the Braum purely for peel, so he does have a lot of beef in front, but I take your point. It's not a Karma, it's not a Lulu, it's not necessarily a Kog'Maw focused comp, but this is going to be Kog'Maw in the back hitting rather than a Jugglemore, where Kog'Maw's going to be mostly positioned at the front of the fight.
And I love the Aurelion Sol pick coming out again. Fly has really shown what an expert he is on this pickup, consistently dealing the most damage to champions in the games he plays. He's very good at playing with the ranges on the stars. And moreover, I think that you're giving the KT the comfort pick to play the style they like, which is that great manipulation of minion waves, constant pressure, and when Fly can just hover between the two lanes, usually bottom and mid, and clear out minion waves while the rest of his team dives, it creates a lot of opportunities.
I gotta say, I look at a draft like this from SKT, and I'm reminded of the SKT of the T1K days, where in the first game of a best of 5, they're like, here, have all your picks, and if we beat you, you'll be so demoralized that you won't be able to get through and win a best of 5, because there's so much comfort and so much strength on the side of KT. It's not necessarily a bad draft from SKT, but they're giving KT, the team in form, so much comfort.
Yeah. SK Telecom still going to have to play this really as a pick composition. And we've also seen KT, when they are faced with the Malzahar, we've seen them buy 5 QSSs before. So KT knows how to deal with this. They've trained against Malzahar very extensively, and they react usually with second, third item QSSs on every single player on the team. I think the real surprise for me, Papa, is no Tahm Kench from SK Telecom here. That has been such an important pick, and they've been prioritizing it in the first round of the draft on blue and red side. So the Taric, bit of a mystery to me this time.
Especially if you have a Malzahar that, could really do with getting the Devour after he unloads his first combo and then get his cooldowns back and come out during the fight. So I completely agree. I was going to bring it up during the draft. They've gone for the Taric, more team fight power.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get right onto the rift here for Game 1. The Telecom war continues. SKT versus KT Rolster. All right, what better way to kick off a playoff best of 5 than with an Infernal Drake?
Finally, no more oceans like the other day. That was terrible.
You can hear the audience. KT fans definitely here today. Whole packed studio as well, so nice to see the old E Stadium filled up.
The oldest rivalries in Korean esports renewed. And we see one of the old meta picks coming through in that Maokai that has clearly been picked to try and tussle up with an immobile AD carry. It was a blocker pick in the end to Jhin. I think Jhin here would have been massively powerful with a less threatening top laner. And you're against Echo, a champion with a very strong laning phase, and Maokai, traditionally, at least he doesn't die, and he does facilitate turret dives and other aggro.
Yeah, I totally agree, too, that the Braum pick was in setup for that Jhin, because even KT here, against Malzahar and Maokai, would much rather have the Tahm Kench alongside that Kog'Maw in the bottom lane. And what do we see here? Someday is in a bottom brush.
Oh, boy.
Are they lane swapping on 6:15?
Looks like it.
You say lane swap, I say invade.
They're moving up through the jungle, waiting for.
Well, they're certainly not going to expect this.
Oh boy, here comes the Johnny. He's gonna throw out the winner's bite, finds Blank. He's gonna get exhausted, flashes away, flash forward from Arrow, will get the stun coming through, and that's gonna be first blood. Goes over to score. He does it yet again. He's continually getting those first bloods for his team, and that is gonna start KT off quite nicely. And it should tilt the hell out of Blank.
Well, this now comes down to what is going to happen in the first 5 minutes of this game while the turrets in top and mid are still fortified. So Echo will be able to clear out the waves early with the Time Winder, and Wolf going on a little bit of a roam into the mid lane. Not going to be too effective, though.
Yeah, trying to find a gank of his own, but Fly playing up into that river. Going to keep himself safe away from that Dazzle, so he will be quite safe in mid. Meanwhile, Someday and Bang going to be duking it out in the bottom lane. Take a little bit of damage there. The Sivir, of course, is going to be doing quite nicely with that added range that she has over top of Someday. He has to jump in if he wants to try to get that kill. Now Score coming up to the top lane. Duke is in a pretty rough spot, but KT not really able to go for a dive. They're still level 2.
Now KT will get a lot of punishment onto this turret, as Monty mentioned. We're on patch 6.15, so the turret reinforcements, which are very powerful in the first 5 minutes, don't apply to bot.
It's going to be the recalls coming through here.
Yep, they're not going to give any time, so actually KT going to get away with this one, actually. Push the wave up. It is going to give Duke a little bit more farm someday. Going to have to use his teleport, but I have to say, guys, I love this game plan that came out from KT, because who has been the underperforming member of SK Telecom? It's Blink. So what do? You design a cheesy invade on this patch that no one's going to be expecting, and maybe that tilts Blink. Maybe it gets him in a really bad situation.
Boy. Blank's in the jungle here. Hachani's going for the kill. Almost has a concussive blows. Will be able to lock him up. And arrows wrapping around from the side. He does not have the flash available, but he's got enough range. The exhaust from Wolf not going to be enough. Kill goes over to Hachani, and they will take down Blank yet again. 0-2 in less than 4 minutes.
And that is a straight-up mistake from Blank. He just saw the Echo TP into the top lane, and he should have known, even though we saw Wolf get some wards down in the jungle to prepare that, that there was going to be Arrow and Hachani coming back into his lane. And he still goes for the red buff, gets locked down, and Hachani so far is just beating Blank up.
This is a strategy that KT obviously didn't show in the last series against Samsung. We saw 3 games of standard lanes, and in our 6th game on patch 6.15, KT's thrown what we thought was going to be a very passive early meta on its head, swapped back and punished now for the red, and score's not even done.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to get anything here. The Raptors will fall to Blank, so he's able to at least hold on to that. But Score just going to continue showing face inside SK Telecom's jungle and just try to really upset Blank and tilt him as much as they possibly can.
I mean, this is the perfect start of your KT. We've heard about Blank before, sometimes having issues with nerves, and we've seen it. His performance is not very consistent, to say the least, but he's shown up in the big games. But here, getting off to a start like this is absolutely brutal, and he's going to have some really strong mental fortitude to recover from this.
Yeah, I mean, we saw at the end of the spring finals that he got scared by those fireworks. I can only imagine how bad he jumped when he saw Hachani, Arrow, and Score coming around the side of the jungle.
And the biggest benefactor of this is the Aurelion Soul in mid lane. You take a lot of harass from Malzahar. You're going to probably take the E bouncing on top of you, and it's very easy to hit those skills. You get in close to melee range when you're farming with your Celestial Expansion, and then flash Rek'Sai and suddenly you're dead, especially around level 6. With the flash that's been down for Blank for a long time, he's under-leveled, can't actually afford to visit mid lane. It's been more farm than Fly could get to, even if he's 10 CS behind in a different game.
Yeah. He's at least level 4, still keeping pace with Score in that regard, so he's not falling too terribly behind, you know, compared to the enemy jungler.
Surprisingly, still going the longsword into the Tiamat build, at least ostensibly, and that's usually a nice snowball build from behind. Can definitely be punished.
It's going to be a bit risky here for SKT. But for now, they're doing all right, just collecting up as much CS as they possibly can. Bang has a little bit of a lead, as does Duke in that top lane against Someday. So that is helping bring the gold back. You can see we're just a couple hundred apart at this point, despite those 2 kills, and that, of course, that first blood gold coming through in favor of KT.
Yeah, well, Bang especially did have some extra time in the lane because of the swap back from KT, and he's gone for the cull, so that's got to be the hope right now, is that maybe they can catch up when it comes to farming. But as we see, the recalls were not exactly synced there from the top laner, so Duke will be falling basically back to even as Someday recalls himself. He's probably just going to ult back into that top side. Nope, he's going to walk in.
This laning phase between Kog'Maw and Sivir in a 2v2, and they both have melee support, so that's kind of a wash. As always, over with more levels gone to the advantage of Kog'Maw. You outrange the Sivir so much that outside of, say, burst trades, where Sivir pops the ultimate and looks for a kill, Kog'Maw will just win out because he has such an immense range advantage when his W is up.
Yeah. Just going to be starting off, going to be looking for that Wit's End first. They can move into all of those fun items such as the Runaan's Hurricane. Going to be a ways out on that. Blank will be able to get a little bit of an invasive play down as he takes away these Raptors, but Score's waiting. Comes over the wall and says, oh, they're gone. So Blank will successfully get away with that cheeky little invade, but overall, SK Telecom not able to find much ground anywhere else in the map. Pearl Drake going to be standing for quite some time, what with these duos in the bottom lane.
2-item power spike for the Kog'Maw is going to be so immense this game. Because, of course, on-hit Kog'Maw has been all the rage ever since Sang Yoon brought it out for Afrika. But consider Wit's End into Hurricane, the magic resist Shred, that's going to be amplifying the damage of all three of the Echo, Gragas, and Aurelion. So it's going to do a lot of work.
Oh boy,
Fly.
yeah, the Nethergrass coming in on the fly. He's going to take a hell of a lot of damage. Pops the heal to get himself out to safety. So he'll stay alive, but Summoner Spell down. Ghost used by Faker, so it'll be a bit of a one-for-one trade, but of course that short cooldown on the Ghost Faker is going to be able to throw that out willy-nilly.
Yeah, just got a score here to help push out the lane to give Fly an opportunity
He's
to
level 6, but
get back.
want to go for anything. Faker showing that he's still quite practiced on this Malzahar lane. Got as much grass as he possibly can. Of course, Fly not having very many items at this point is going to be looking for that catalyst to the Aeons. Looks like he doesn't have enough gold just yet to be able to buy it, so let's just come back in with the Ruby Crystal.
It's one of the unique things about the Aurelion Soul is that with Swiftness, Boots Rush, and of course his E ability is able to get back to lane very fast.
Wolf's going to take a bit of damage. They slow him up. He's going to get that heal coming through, but he gets knocked really low. Still has the flash and the exhaust up, but some brutal punishments coming through from Arrow and Johnny in this bottom lane. Now with the ulti up, this could actually be very scary. Wolf try to walk this out. It's not level 6 yet, but it's like Arrow running low on mana. Doesn't really want to overcommit for this.
Knows that Wolf Summoner's up, so no reason to trade your flash for Tarek's flash if you're a Cockmore.
Also, Duke was not in lane and had his TP, so real danger if you overcommit there past the minion wave that
Score says thank you
up.
for that. Goes in with a body slam.
Aurelion Soul's
He'll
coming.
Get popped up, but yeah, Fly pinching down. Blank gonna try to get over the wall, but Score says get the hell away from there. Pops him back with the cast, and Blank is just gonna have to flash out. So goes in for the steal, can't get the big Raptor, and now has his flash down yet again.
And he was outsmote on 2 separate occasions. We saw Score steal away the Scuttle Crab in the top river and then take his Raptors back. So Blank actually has wasted a lot of time, and Score has been there to get the camps and to get the pressure. So flash down now too. Limit Blank's abilities to actually affect these lanes.
Fly going in, looking for the stun, not able to find it. The Malefic Visions, they're going to start doing some pretty decent damage to this Aurelion Soul that doesn't have that Rod of Ages stacking up yet, so not going to be too tanky. And Faker, of course, going to have that damage coming through earlier with the Fiendish Codex and the Lost Chapter, so we'll be doing quite a bit of grassing in that mid for a while.
Fly's only loss on the Aurelion Soul is 6-1, was against Faker. Much earlier in the season, it was Aurelion Soul versus Azir that day. Azir out of the meta, but Malzahar similarly really punishing matchup for the Aurelion Soul. He just takes so much incidental damage in the laning phase.
Worth noting, though, that the Aurelion Soul was the only win KT got in their last best of 3, too. So it's not like he hasn't had victories over Faker with it. And a free Drake here for SK Telecom. They'll take that.
Yeah, they're able to move in for that, but Johnny didn't have any vision down in the river. Comes in just too late and scores on the top side of the jungle.
I mean, Fly really wanted to go back to pick up his Catalyst, and
Wit's End as well for Cockmore.
Yep, so they took advantage of the fact that KT basically abandoned the mid and bot lanes, and that'll be a great early pickup.
Void Rush coming through, Score. He's going to take a bit of damage. Faker still pushing after him, but doesn't want to commit with another grass. Flame just not able to arrive in time. Wolf flashing away will get locked up. Ultimate's not going to come through in time. That's going to be a quick kill coming through for the Cogmaw. Nicely done in the bottom lane for KT. They'll put the 3rd kill on the board. Oh, meanwhile, Duke up in top. If he going low, there's no way he's going to get out of here. Trying to trade back a kill on a Score. Works him low, but it's just going to be another kill for the Gragas. So losing battles for SK Telecom across the map.
I mean, that when you get killed cross-map like that, there is something that has gone seriously wrong.
Oh, well, it's not done yet. Johnny is going to be taking this up. The heal comes through. He's going to try to jump away. One more shot. Might have been able to do it, but they're able to get him. An arrow, the last shot. Will it kill him? No! Able to walk away with about 36 HP in the end, and that'll be a 2nd picked up for Cogmaw. My God.
And we were talking about standard lanes, guys, and Wolf and Bang have been so long a duo, and in standard lanes they're getting rocked by the KT duo. Achani's level up this season has gone under-discussed in my opinion. This guy, you know, a former champion of the LCK 2 years ago, has really leveled up. So we start the fight. The moment that the Winter's Bite hits, Wolf's in a lot of trouble. He dies, didn't trigger his ult early enough. But the question is, how does this gank work when he has a pink and a red ward down? He has perfect vision here, Duke, and he just dies.
And he could have flashed out of the parallel convergence too. He had his flash, didn't actually have to get stunned at all. So that was simply poor play, poor awareness from Duke in the top lane.
Yeah, and we all know how that turned out for Bang in the end of the play. It's going to be a 2nd Infernal Drake coming up in about 4 minutes or so. KT gonna have to put that one on for themselves, because if they give the second Infernal Drake over to SK Telecom, that's when things can start getting a little bit shaky despite the lead that they've grown for themselves.
Okay, some more action
now,
coming. Blank and Faker.
Bang. Still not gonna pop that on the hunt. Hold on to it, get a little bit of damage in, but nothing really gonna come of that.
Let's talk about Hachani Pop, because that's actually a very interesting conversation this season. Because you didn't get to your point.
And the thing is, his level up is the big story. Is Fly and Faker tussle in the mid lane.
You might not get to your point. The Nethergrass is going to come out Fly, work down to about half. The minions are going to chip away at him. Hachani not arriving in time to really make a difference. He's going to walk past that one pink ward, but he finds a second one, so it's all right.
I mean, Hachani's a former champ. He won with the KT Rolster Arrows, the last team that, other than SK Telecom, to win an LCK, but he was very much the fifth member of the team. There was 4 stars and there was Hachani. And look, he didn't look great in 2015, then was pushed out by Peekaboo. Was coach of Anarchy now.
Oh, flash body slam on the Bang. They pop him back. That's a spell shield, but that's not going to matter at all. Score just sets up another play, and they take out Bang.
Bang not fast enough on the spell shield there. Surprised by Score, and with no summoners. That was all she wrote, and KT will take the turret too. And this is looking like it is going to be a very one-sided game in favor of KT Rolster.
If SKT can snipe out that second Infernal Drake, though, it could help them inch back in.
They need it.
I mean, Blank is getting a takeaway on the blue buff. He's going to hand that over to Faker. But the tower's getting ready to go down in bot, and that should be that nice little burst of gold. The first brick, as Doa has deemed it, from the bottom lane in favor of KT. Someday now going to get benched on in top. Duke is going to be more than happy to take this up. Also have Faker in the wings to help finalize this kill. He's going to snap back and a little bit of damage. It flashes away, but the Malefic Visions are there. A little bit of a... Oh, that was close. A little bit of a steal by Blank with the Prey Seeker. Could have given that one over to Faker, but really wanted to make sure that that kill came through. So SK Telecom, they finally put one on the board, but they're just getting punished around the map. Bottom lane tower goes down. Now they're looking for the tier 1 in mid.
They don't even get that first brick with the 3-man aggression into the top of Kilios. They're going to lose mid lane as well, and they're trading down again, SKT.
They are. Looks like they might be able to get the turret in top, but still it's going to be a 2-for-1 in favor of KT in that regard. Finally, we're able to pick up a kill. That's going to help Blank out just a little bit, but to 3 members to lock down someday up top.
Hachani's always been a smart player whose mechanics let him down, but this season's mechanics have been a lot better. His decision-making in-game has always seemed to be outweighed by his strategic intelligence out of game. That's why he was coach of Anarchy a year ago, but he's kind of putting everything together, minimizing the downsides of his mechanical ability, and his performance this season, he's probably been the best performing support in the league.
Yeah, well, I think he does have the highest percentage of deaths for his team.
Someone has to die, Monty. Someone has to die. If you're playing the melee supports, you're going to die.
I mean, everybody was playing the melee supports, and Hachani still managed to die more than any other player in comparison to the total deaths of his team. But it is true, the way Hachani plays is he often flashes in to engage fights. Like, that's just the way he is as a support player. So he does sort of take one for the team quite a few times. And it's not so much the Hachani face checking that we like to joke about. It's actually been toned down pretty significantly.
He's done it a couple times here and there in recent memory.
He's still Hachani sometimes, but it's not as much as he used to.
You can't lose that bit of your identity as hard as you try.
With this lead, KT again, 2-item power spike on the Kog'Maw is going to be just unbelievably strong with the Wits End Hurricane synergy. So SKT, it's only late game when Civ is really going to get going, and late game's looking a long damn time away.
Well, you can see this Infernal Drake now spawning. All of KT are set and prepped to take this one out. Looks like SK Telecom might just have to hand this over. Well, KT, they're not going to start this up.
No, they don't want to start it now till they can push out the lanes. Like, they just want to make sure that SKT doesn't have position. SKT going to try and get some damage on the mid tower instead, but it's like Kog'Maw's got the lane where they want it, so they may go ahead and make that attempt.
Already uses W though, so that's going to be a cooldown. They want to start the Drake without. Good pressure from Duke in the top lane. Looking in terms of flank wards, there's almost none there for SKT. There's no wards around the Drake at all, so
yeah, now that
just the
cleared
couple
out
here.
They'll be able to sweep through those. Now Faker getting pinched up from the bottom side. Score coming forward, throws out the barrel. It's not going to be looking for that explosive cascade. Wants to save that for this fight that is just looming ever nearer around this Infernal Drake.
KT can start the Drake, then kite downwards. There are no flank wards for the Maokai, only on one side of the choke, so that's pretty good stuff for KT.
Someday trying to trade some damage back in the top lane, has that Trinity Force completed, so opted in for that rather than the Iceborne Gauntlet. So just going to be trying to output as much as he can against the tree, but Duke is still going to be pretty healthy with that Spirit Visage and that Corrupting Potion that he has in the inventory.
SKT taking a fight without an Aegis sounds really painful to me, guys.
This is pretty risky. Duke and Someday both in that top lane, but that's going to be the recall actually coming through from Fly. It's pretty low. They'll flood the cask, but it's too late. That will be a second Infernal Drake going over to SK Telecom.
Wow. SKT has had the best Drake control in the league, hands down. They get 64% of the dragons that spawn in their games, but KT is just really not applying the pressure that they needed to, not getting the waves in the right place, and giving over 2 Infernal Drakes really does give SK Telecom a way to get back into this game.
KT have, conversely to SKT, really deprioritized Drake in general, especially the early ones, but that's usually in service of getting Someday a big league. Someday has been the one member that, once again, has been targeted out by SKT, doing fine. Very comparable in CS to a Maokai, but no actual lead there for that investment. So KT, maybe the Drake just being an oversight, and in a series 2 days ago, it would have been an Ocean Drake, so you're kind of like, well, sucks, but what can you do? 2 Infernals does give SKT something big in the late game.
Yeah, especially as the items are getting ready to come through for Bang. Has the Essence Reaver completed. It's going to be looking for, looks like his seal item coming through. So he's really going to start firing off damage. So it's something that has to be concerned about. We can see a very early QSS already coming through for Arrow, completing that before the Rudan's Hurricane.
I mean, you have to, because the combo of Twisted Advance, I think, going into a Nether Grasp is something that they can't have for their main source of damage in this game. So maybe a little bit conservative, but he is going to go ahead and pick it up early, and that's what we've seen from KT. When they play against Malzahar, they tend to get early QSS.
I just think on Arrow in particular, ahead of a Hurricane, it's a bit questionable to me, because they've had map control for the majority, maybe not around the Drake, but everywhere else. They have a very strong front line. Theoretically, Arrow should never be in range of Faker until much later in the game, and there hasn't been that many flank wards for the Maokai, so it seems a bit too much safety first for my liking.
I think that because it's too early for SKT to force Baron, and because Drake isn't coming up for another few minutes, one of the ways this game could spiral out of control and you could lose turrets is if Arrow gets picked off. He doesn't need, they don't need more wave clear than they've got right now, so why not just get the QSS safely and get the Hurricane by the time the next Drake spawns, and you're going to have it for the next team fight anyway.
I think that it's fine because it's also 2-0 and 3 and has a bit of a CS lead over top of Bang. So it's not like he's starving for gold. He has that coming through from those assists, from those 2 kills that he was able to pick up in the bottom lane. So it's not like he's, zeros across the board, even in CS, and still investing money into the QSS. So that's going to help even him out a little bit. In any other context, I agree with you, but I think for here, it is okay and probably really smart of Arrow to have that already.
But what's the next objective for KT? They've taken the 2 easier turrets. They've opened up the map to some degree, taking mid lane. For now, the top lane turret has gone fairly undamaged for Maokai, and they've given away the Drake, so they haven't taken the maximum to really snowball their lead, and for now, they're kind of just meandering around the mid lane and their own jump.
Yeah, 21 minutes in, Baron not going to be able to be taken by any of these teams. You can see the Rudan's Hurricane has been completed now for Arrow, so wasn't that big of a setback. The 2-item power spike does come through from that cockball, so this will help KT get into more of a position where they can pick these fights. Speaking of which, it's going to be Fly eventually getting caught out in the top lane. Exhaust coming through. Duke's here as well, locks him down with the Twisted Advance. The Voice of Light will push him away, but Fly's still falling pretty low. Flashes and heals to get himself out. Looks like he will live through that. So a couple investments coming out of SK Telecom, and they can't lock down the kill.
3 summoners used by SKT. They do get 2 away from Fly. They can't quite convert it. This Aurelion Soul really does get tanky. You get that Rod of Ages, you get the Rylai's, and he becomes a pretty reliable frontliner.
Yeah, and he has to be, so he can just sit up there, use that Celestial Expansion and chip away at you. Someday, shoving forward in the bottom lane. Knows that Blank's in the area, so he's just going to wrap around, spot out that Grump, but Infernal Drake getting ready to spawn in 2 minutes, 3 in a row. Who would have thought?
I mean, if SKT gets this one, it may just be game over for KT. Like, 3 Infernal Drakes is such an enormous advantage in League of Legends, and they have that high damage on Sivir.
But again, it's kind of only Sivir. Malzahar does do good late game team damage, but it's going to be very hard for him to actually output damage with how much CC and tanky DPS will be trying to shut him down. So it is a 2-threat comp. So certainly if it's a top lane character, if there was a Gangplank, then certainly this game is pretty much in the books. But it's not great to be fighting against 3 Infernal Drakes, but I think KT could still do it.
Well, KT now going to be looking for this last tier 1 tower up in the top lane. Just going to be Wolf and Bang in the area. Blank is kind of meandering his way over, but turret took a bit of damage earlier on when KT had that lane swap, so they're able to work it down very quickly with that Cogmaw. So that will be the last tier 1 going down. SK Telecom going to be looking for their second tower now in the bottom lane as Duke keeps working the wave up. A couple more hits coming through will do the job, so should be able to take this away before anyone from KT can arrive.
KT's been so smart all season. It was on display against Samsung, picking up CS when rotating. And although they've fallen behind in a couple of lanes, specifically the mid lane, they first had Cogmaw in mid with Hurricane, and they rotated over their Echo. And just when Echo wants to back, Cogmaw will be back there. So keeping this final mid outer lane turret up for KT is so important for their map control and denying something like the big Maokai teleport flank.
Yep, well, Score finds Blank in the river. Just smack him around a couple times. But that Infernal Drake now spawning in 10 seconds. KT might just be looking to make a pick, send somebody back to base, and then start up that Infernal Drake. Because, as mentioned, if they're not able to take this away from SK Telecom, they almost certainly will be able to swing right back into a lead with that 24% increase to their AD and AP.
Duke's decided he never wants to take magic damage. He has both a Spirit Visage and a Banshee Veil against on-hit Cogmaw. So he's got that going for him.
Yeah, we'll be going for a Frozen Heart too, presumably, which helps cut down, considering Cogmaw is basically the on-hit build is an attack speed build.
I mean, if you can zone a Hurricane away from a fight, if Maokai can tussle with Cogmaw out of range of his allies, then he's doing his job. All he has to do is trivialize the Cogmaw, and with a build like this, he's certainly within a shot of doing.
Well, we can see the Dragon started up here by KT. It's going to be well-timed as Duke doesn't have the teleport, so wouldn't be able to answer a fight in any way, shape, or form. So KT will be able to put 8% stats on the board for them. SK Telecom just going to have that 8% advantage. But Cloud Drake will be our next one coming through. So our fourth and final Dragon before we hit the Elder.
Game stalled out a lot, so one-sided to KT around the 12-minute mark. Last 12 minutes have been kinder to SKT.
Like the pit, he'll be able to tunnel out of there though. Not going to find a pick. They were looking for Faker, didn't notice the Rek'Sai sitting there idly by. Prey Seeker won't kill the Scuttle, so KT will just maintain dominant vision in the lane. They're playing this one out nice and patient. They're not looking to throw like they did last time these two teams faced off.
Yeah, that's the big difference, is the patience from KT. They don't look very nervous here. They don't look like they're trying to jump the gun or afraid that if the game goes long that they will lose, and taking unnecessary risks to close early, just waiting back. One objective being picked up at a time.
Silence comes through on the Score. Faker not looking for him as his target for the Nethergrass, but the Dazzle comes through. Score's going to get locked up, and he should go down. The Malefic Visions are still ticking away on him. The shield will save his life for the time being. Duke now arriving with the TP.
Fly.
And Fly getting locked down, but then Nethergrass for the other side of the fight. He's going to go low. He's going to go down. That's going to be a kill. Picked up for SK Telecom as Blank finds the killing blow. Johnny going low, going to have to try to get out of here, as does Score. Arrow's still pretty healthy, as is Someday. They're not going to be able to stick around and really push this fight further.
Faker did a great job of baiting out Score's flash. He flashed before Score did.
Here.
Looking for more, goes in on a Someday, gets a bit of damage down onto the Echo, but the Baron has been started up by SK Telecom. Score's coming around the backside, sitting on top of that pink ward. So they will see him. This is still very risky for SKT. Duke is tanky, so he will be able to take the brunt of the damage, but Score's going to be looking for the steal. They throw the boomerang over the wall. Blank's going to come out and try to just zone him off as the rest of SK Telecom finishes off this objective. They should be able to do it. The Dazzle not going to connect on the Hajani, but now Someday comes in. Can he find it? No, not going to be able to find it. SK Telecom will claim the Baron, but Faker is going to pay for it with his life. Wolf trying to recall out in the back of the pit's not going to be able to do so. He's going to have to flash the wall, and Hajani with Arrow in tow are able to find another kill onto Duke, so they will get rid of 2 of those buffs, but SKT, they get the Baron on 3 members, plus that gold.
SK Telecom, they're a very punishing team if you make a mistake. They are decisive. How many times in their history have we seen a play made like this? And Blank does take a bit of a risk. He's the one who exits the Baron pit, actually, which is very unusual to try and keep Score back.
I mean, they didn't have any other options. It wasn't in range of the Maokai. I guess Score didn't have time to kill the pink or didn't see it. Not clear on that one. They almost take down Blank, which would have removed the ability to smite, but gets back into the pit, does get the smite. There's always going to be exit kills here. Faker, obviously, well overextended trying to zone early. Worth noting that Duke, nice turnaround on Hachani, does make it only a 2-for-1 for KT as he picks up the Brom, but you take the Baron and get a nice load of gold from that. Makes the game just 2,000, so still very, very close at 28 minutes.
Yeah, and having those extra bits of stats coming through is going to be helping out SK Telecom. We'll see how much more gold they can pick up now that they have this Baron buff in tow. We can see Arrow coming through, has the Blade of the Ruin King completed as his third item. Bang, opting into the rapid fire cannon. Thought maybe we would see that Phantom Dancer coming out, but wanted that additional attack range.
So while Blade Cog has always been a staple, obviously extra current health damage to complement his max health, the reason why we're seeing it here is he sees 2 magic resist item Maokai, and he's like, well, I need to build this because otherwise I'm going to take incidental magic damage from the Maokai and get hurt, and it's just physical damage to deal with the magic resist stacking. So I don't mind it as an adaptation.
He also needs the active to keep Maokai away from him, too. So usually we would see a Ginsu's Rage Blade on the current on-hit build as a 3rd item on Cog, but I do agree it's the better item in this scenario.
Do you think that that's going to be coming through as the 4th item?
Yes.
For him? So
It's probably going to be Mercurial Scimitar and the Rage Blade. The Rage Blade complements every on-hit, and Blade of the Ruin King still an on-hit. And at the end of the day, you get 3rd item Rage Blade, and you have like 150 on-hit magic damage. Maokai does not give a crap about your on-hit magic damage with 2 magic resist items. So the burst of healing, the slow, they will help him out as Faker's overextended.
yeah, Score's coming in here, has the Drunken Rage up. Spot him out, but Body Slam comes through, and Faker, he's pretty much just dead. No rise jump forward from Hachani. They're just going to try to get onto him. No flash available, as you said, and he goes down. That's another kill picked up here for Fly on the Aurelian Soul. His first, actually. But this will open up that mid-tier 1 for SK Telecom to take.
Not going to push it too far. They don't have eyes on the members of KT right now, so don't want to overcommit and get cut off from behind. Someday also showing up for a little bit of wave clear, and here come the rest of KT. Just prompt SK Telecom to back off, but you know, even though they got the Baron, the needle on the gold lead, it really hasn't moved at all. KT still, they've been 2 to 3K ahead this entire game, so keeping it close.
Which is pretty much the best thing you could hope for SK Telecom, watching this so far, given how the game started off for them.
I mean,
Blue buff is going to be handed over.
Getting the Baron was so big for SKT, because you look at KT's comp, and when you're talking about initiation, it's Gragas only, and Gragas is much better when he has a Lissandros, another CC, to get that guaranteed ultimate on. You know, if you can poke out the Malzahar, he has no flash, sure, you can catch the Malzahar, but if KT is kiting back around objectives and SKT has to fight them, KT has a wonderfully powerful teamfight comp. But if SKT can just opt out of fights, which they've done ever since we were 6-1 very early in the game, they can at least equalize the gold. What we've seen so far is Blank.
Oh my.
Yeah, he's just going to get shredded down below half.
That's before the Rage Blade comes through and starts doubling those on-hit effects.
Yeah, that very well could have been a dead Rek'Sai if that were the case. You can see Bang, though, has the Infinity Edge completed, so he's really going to start firing off the damage to those Ricochet crits in these team fights.
The crazy thing, too, about this Kog'Maw is Braum walks around a team fight and just starts hitting everybody with concussive blows. That combined with the attack speed and the Hurricane from Kog'Maw means that you can get multiple stuns very quickly.
The Penta stun, well, that's going to be on the hunt popped, and Arrow goes pretty low. Score going to try to gatekeep Blank away from the Kog'Maw as he's running out. The Malefic Vision still ticking him down pretty low. KT looks like they're just going to try to back off down this river. The Cloud Drake does get engaged somewhere in the mix. Neither team really going to be able to commit for this one. Something still pushing forward, just trying to zone SK Telecom back. Losing the Cloud Drake wouldn't be the most awful thing to happen for KT. Well, it looks like they might want to put up a fight against them.
SKT used 2 ults right there, and KT used none, so there's a real possibility KT can wrap back around. Arrow was life-stealing off of the Krugs.
See him moving back in. Hachani sitting up in the front lines, taking a bunch of damage. So Dragon's going to go low, will be confirmed by Blank. Now KT, can they make something happen with the rest of this fight? Arrow low on mana and HP, trying to push up and utilize that Blade of the Ruin King, but someday gets locked up and he's going to go down. Has the Guardian Angel available to try to bring him back up. Hachani dies. Malzahar is going to come up with a kill on Arrow as he falls. Can he get anything with a passive? It doesn't look like it. A double stun on the parallel convergence from Someday should be able to let him exit safely with his life. But KT, they get rocked a little bit in that fight, only are able to find a kill on that Bang, and they lose the bottom lane.
Well, nobody was peeling for Arrow. We saw basically Someday get chunked out right at the beginning of the fight. He couldn't get on to Bang quickly. And then Fly ended up next to Bang as he comes in. So a little bit overly aggressive here. Someday does get his GA popped eventually as he has whittled down by the Malefic Visions.
It was a really nice engage and a really nice explosive cast, but Sivir can fight with her tanks much better than Kog'Maw. Kog'Maw at the end of the day didn't have the Braum peel after the initial, started the fight at 50% health, died incidentally to a Malefic Visions on the backhand. So it's going to be going for some armor penetration as well, so maybe the Rage Blade will have to be skipped over in this game.
Yeah, it might have to be. The Executioner's Calling is very important in these team fights against the Maokai, who will be using that passive to consistently heal up.
So he's going to go off the beaten path with this build. We've seen some differentiation with the builds here in Korea. Jhin, especially, going to be very prevalent, but this time going to be changing things up a little bit with the Kog'Maw. It's going to work out for KT because that last fight, not very encouraging as they move forward. That double Infernal Drake SK Telecom definitely doing some work in these fights, and Vigor starting to really rack up the damage with those Malefic Visions.
This comp just doesn't make things happen particularly well. Okay, in the laning phase where they got the good ganks, KT was super proactive, but unless they're starting a Baron and SKT's forced to funnel in, it's hard to both occupy Bang and have Arrow do damage in a fight. They can do one, but doing both is very, very tricky.
Duke looking for something, comes in from below. Throw out the sapling, so they know exactly where he's at, but Baron has since respawned, and SK Telecom have a good amount of vision around that top side of the river. There's one ward, I believe, sitting in the pit for KT, so they'll know whether or not that objective gets started up, but they're just, of course, not in a position to really go for that after that last fight. Looks like now just going to keep this wave moving up in mid, try to have as much forward vision as they possibly can.
They've got to start doing something like threatening this Baron KT if they want to take this game. And they're starting to work away at the vision just a little bit, but there's quite a bit to go.
Definitely a Void Staff short of big damage on Fly, for example, who is working towards the Liandry's first, just for more burn. A lot of people are going to be opting into those Celestial Expansion stars during a fight, but no magic penetration like the Void Staff that Faker has already.
Yeah, opted into that Banshee's Veil as well for his third item. So he's going to be a ways out. Should have that Liandry soon, but the Void Staff is not going to be coming through for him for a little while here. Faker, with Liandry's of his own on the way, is just going to really start ticking down people. We already saw how much damage he did Someday after snatching it with that Nethergrass. It's going to be exacerbated even more for the members of KT once that comes through.
Is there an item threshold where Kog'Maw can actually shred through Maokai? That needs to happen at some point, even if one person is helping him. They need to be able to DPS and move on to the next target, and I don't know if there's items that'll do that with this build.
Well, I do think that once the Mortal Reminder gets done and the Liandry's, at least they may have enough damage to get through, but yeah, certainly
I mean, meanwhile,
big problem.
A Ricochet crit is going to be hitting people for 500 damage in the backline without even fully committing, so just the amount of time it takes to chop down a tree, talking about woodchuckers here, I guess, but cutting down that tree is so hard for this Kog'Maw, and that's why he's had to modify the build.
Yeah, Duke is just absolutely massive at this point. That Guardian Angel is going to be doing some work, because now Arrow has to kill him twice in these fights, so that's going to be a pretty tall order for him. But, I mean, if he can get into a position, lock down with the W and really fire off, he will be able to shred that Maokai fairly quickly, but even so, the likelihood of that without getting snatched up by something like the Unburrow, the Nethergrasp, is pretty unlikely for KT.
SKT have really steadied the ship this game. It was almost a basket case in the first 10 minutes. Blank was out of the game almost in the first 5.
Yeah.
But KT took that mid and outer bot lane turret. SKT picking up those 2 Infernal Drakes. Think of this game if KT had taken the first 2 Infernal Drakes, it would have been completely different. That tankiness wouldn't have been enough from Duke, but stealing away the Drakes against the run of play and KT not having the initiation to get more than the minimum has stalled it out to a point where SKT could win this game.
Yeah, 2-2-2 across the board for Blank, so Definitely put in some work to make sure that that stat didn't drop any more than it already had. So hasn't died since the first 10 minutes of this game, really. So he's been in a much better spot. Hasn't been able to really create any picks, but was able to confirm that Baron, and that's probably going to be the most important thing that he's accomplished so far in this game. He's going to be looking for a second one soon. Score moving forward. We'll get unburrowed on the Dazzle. Not going to connect from Wolf. Blank still going really far forward, trying to get onto Arrow. He's going to flash on Burrow. The rest of SKT trying to collapse in time to get here. Arrow kiting back, and it's going to be Faker starting to fire off with a Malefic Vision, really ticking down score on this Gragas. Arrow getting locked down by the Twisted Advance, trying to kite back as best as he can, blows the Blink the Root King, but it's just not doing enough. Duke is just sticking to him like glue. Meanwhile, on the backside of the fight, Someday is trying to find a kill on the Faker. I just don't know if he's going to be able to accomplish that. Actually, might come up with a double kill. He's going to get the Guardian Angel pop. So will come back in time. Faker looks like he might be out of range, so Silent going to be missed time. Jumps on the bang, but it doesn't matter. He's not able to find the kill. And Fly is still running away from Blank, gets the stun and should be able to outrun this Rek'Sai as the Praise Seeker does connect, but that is going to be 3 kills picked up for KT.
And it all
against KT.
All started out with Score getting caught out. He was trying to just be cute behind the Baron pit, but then he had to use his body slam to get out of the way. But the Civarolt had already been popped, gave Blank enough time to get that flash on Burrow. Great engage by Blank, because that means Arrow took a bunch of damage from the Rek'Sai, then flashed, and then Duke was all over him. There were no more disengage tools available for the Kog'Maw, and Arrow was really a sitting duck.
The Cosmic Radiance was actually at just the right time as well, because when the Kog'Maw turned around after flashing, popped his W, the Cosmic Radiance was applying, actually did no damage. We're going to see a replay. Smart of Blank. It looks like an over-engage, but actually super smart, because as the Cosmic Radiance comes in, Arrow's finally at a safe distance. That's where Kog'Maw wants to fight. He's doing no damage, and then KT are caught between actually doing damage to the damage dealers and peeling for Arrow. They realize they can't peel for Arrow, and because they half commit between 2 objectives, they don't actually take down anyone on the side of SKT, and Duke solos down the Kog'Maw.
Yeah, and it was also at the start of that fight a 4v5 for a really long time before Someday was able to make it in. And without that Echo to punish the backline of SK Telecom, there's not really anything stopping Duke from just sitting on top of Arrow.
Yeah, and we see that spirals SK Telecom into a lead here pretty firmly for the first time in the game. 72,000 to 69,000 that KT has. They're going to pop on the hunt. Someday getting jumped on, taking so much damage. He is pretty much dead to right. Snaps back with the ultimate, but too little, too late. Faker comes up with a kill now. Hachani having to exit over the wall, but it doesn't matter. He's going to fall in the end. 2 more on the board for SKT. That should be the Elder Dragon going over to them. And you know what? It didn't look like it was going to happen at the start of that game, but they have just dragged the team back into a leading position. It looks like they're going to be able to close out game 1.
Yeah, smart macro from SKT. Really good decision making, especially surrounding those Barons. They have a very clear concept of how they want to fight, and they look like they're ready to deal with Arrow's Jhin, to deal with Arrow's Kog'Maw. So we got to hope that KT has another plan here, whether it's going back to Lucian or taking away the Sivir.
All this incidental AoE is just doing no damage with the damage reduction from the Maokai, and the first Maokai pick of the season I can really get behind has basically won SKT this game.
Yeah, they're going to go in, knock down the last remaining Nexus Tower. KT doing what they can, but the Nethergrass comes through from Faker. They'll lock him down, they'll take him out. Arrow just gets exploded, as does the remaining members of KT Rolster squad. And that's going to be SKT coming back from the dead in this game, finding a win. And that is going to be a nice start to them in this best-of-5 set.
Yeah, and I wonder what this means really for KT, because they had such a big advantage. And they showed a strategy. They tried to get Blank off of his game early. They were up heavily in terms of kills, but they couldn't actually close it out. SK Telecom was the better team when it came to coordination and team fighting.
And then you talk about the SKT draft. The Maokai pick denied the Jhin that Arrow so desperately wanted to play this game. They pivoted onto Kog'Maw, even though it wasn't necessarily a protect the Kog'Maw comp. It was Kog'Maw incidentally as an AD carry, and Kog'Maw has the same disadvantage as Jhin against the Maokai flank, and I think it was on full display that a mobile AD carries against Maokai has always been happy hunting grounds for the tree.
And we're going to have to think about how this is going to impact KT, because you guys mentioned it at the beginning of the broadcast. You know, very big strategy that you could have. Give all of these comfort picks over to KT Rolster and then stomp them out with it and potentially tilt the team. If that was the gambit that SKT was trying to run, it paid off for them.
Yeah, well, there's lots of games left in this best-of-5.
I hope so.
Yeah, hopefully. I
We'll
hope
find
so
out.
too. But yeah, not a lot of damage there. as a result of the way that SK Telecom was playing the map and the way they itemized, no real chance for the Kog'Maw, which we have seen do absurd late game damage. Couldn't get online. So Maokai ban coming up next game.
Yeah.
We could certainly see that. That was usually a Marin exclusive ban, but maybe it's time to ban it against Duke as well.
I think you ban it. If you're KT, you need to be able to run the Jhin. You need to be able to run the Kog'Maw. SK Telecom has shown that they're willing to play the Maokai themselves. Now, does Sunday take it? It's his most played champion of all time. He's a really good Maokai player. Another option on the table for KT, but I think that with the way Arrow has been playing, you need to make sure that he is not going to get absolutely destroyed.
Well, certainly a possibility. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll have Game 2 of SK Telecom versus KT Rolster.